And Chris Ockley here at the 2011 USATF annual meeting in St. Louis with Craig Virgin, the legendary U.S. distance runner who, let's see, born in Belleville, Illinois, and grew up, what, family farm outside of Lebanon?
Lebanon, just like the country.
Yep. And I guess officially elected last year and deferred that induction to this year for be close to home. Tell me, after just a long, successful career, I know you've had a busy month. Last month, the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, and this month, the National Track and Field Hall of Fame. What's, looking back on the career and this recognition, tell me a little bit about that and your feelings.
Well, it's been nearly 20 years since I retired from I retired from the big-time international running in 1992. And then I tried to then train to be a master's late in the 90s and got short-circuited by a real bad car wreck, which I never was able to completely recover from. It was a head-on at 70 miles an hour, and I've had 15 surgeries and a lot of rehab since then. All I can do right now is jog 1 to 3 miles, and then I do a lot of cross-training. So my days of racing cross-country will probably next happen in heaven if I get that far. So anyhow, I've always wondered about that Gabriel Selassie movie where they opened up with him running across that broken ground, and I said, you know, that when I die, that's what I hope I can do again, is be able to run over that broken ground.
Right.
It's a thrill to be right here in St. Louis. We're 24 hours out, and to be able to be inducted with 5 other great athletes and to be honored with the top male and female track and field athlete of the year here in St. Louis is just a wonderful experience. I'm humbled. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to go into the Hall of Fame with some of the other great distance runners that I idolize coming up, the Billy Mills, the Frank Shorter, Steve Prefontaine, and you know, maybe even a couple guys before that. Those were my role models for the sport, and I hope that I have served as a role model for some other young guys to say that, hey, you know, you can come from less than perfect conditions. You can come from a less than a rich environment. You can come from a farm in a small town that doesn't even have a track. And if you have an ability, and if you train properly and you dedicate yourself, anything can happen. And that's basically what I hope, that when people look at my career for 23 years of competitive running, that they'll remember is that it doesn't, you know, perfect conditions don't make the athlete, but a little talent and the right attitude do, and it has to come from in your heart most of all.
Yeah. What's this been like, obviously, since last year and being elected? What's being able to share that with family and friends and people that have supported you and coaches? What's
the biggest thing is that so many of my family and friends and former teammates will be able to come down. I'll probably have 50 to 100 former teammates, friends, and family members in attendance tomorrow night, and that's one of the reasons I decided to wait a year instead of getting inducted in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I'd probably have less than 10 people there. To be inducted here, it was a no-brainer, and you know, people can come without it being a financial sacrifice. And some people are coming in from Chicago, some from Kansas City, some from you know, all over Illinois for sure. But there'll be a bunch just within 30 miles of St. Louis, so I feel good that they can get in without spending a lot of money and can help me enjoy. I went into the distance running, the U.S. Distance Running Hall of Fame, and I was out there by myself, and I'll never do that again. I said, because, you know, part of the real enjoyment of this is sharing it with people, especially people that helped you get there. And when you can share the honor with the people that helped make it possible for you to achieve that distinction, then, you know, you feel good. And that's what it's all about, is sharing it with the people that helped you get to the journey.
And I think that's one of the things I enjoy most about the sport, cross country, track and field, distance running. It feels like such of a personal and social, you know, interaction. You get to know, you know,
until the gun goes off.
Well, yes. And so, yeah, I would think that being able to share that, and, you know, because so many people contribute and support you, and, you know, help you pay for shoes and come to your races and cheer you on, and it takes a village, you know, almost to.
Well, and remember, cross country and track, at the grassroots level in high school, you have a few spectators at some meets, and then maybe the most spectators you run in front of all year is at the state track meet or the state cross country meet. And then as you go up the ladder, if you go to college, then you'll have some bigger meets, and there'll be a few more, there'll be a few hundred people in attendance, or if you're lucky, a couple thousand.
Right.
And then if you can get to the NCAA championships, then you've got maybe 5,000 or 10,000 people that you can perform. The audiences grow, and probably, for me, when I remember in my career, like my first Big Ten cross-country championship was on my home course at Illinois, and 5,000 people from Illinois came to the golf course that I performed in front of, and I was able. I mean, they inspired me so much that I beat a senior from Indiana who was an All-American, and I won the race that day.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I paid for it for about 2 days. I was sick as a dog and sore all over, but I was able to win there. And then my senior year, we hosted the districts, which is now called regionals, which is the qualifying round to go to nationals. And again, 5,000 or more people showed up for a cross-country race.
Yeah.
And those, when I think back to Illinois, and then the situation where we hosted the NCAA meet my senior year in outdoors, and we had probably 10,000 people for both Friday and Saturday each day, and maybe 15, because Memorial Stadium was huge, and they had most of the lower level filled. And so, but then when I went to Oregon for my first Olympic trials in '76, and then again in '80, to compete in front of 10 or 12,000 people. Right. And then when you go to Europe and you go to track stadiums where there could be 20 or 30,000 people in attendance, like at the Van Damme meet in Brussels, and the in Oslo, well, in Helsinki is the Paavo Nurmi meet, and then the Oslo would be, Oslo would Bislett Games, and finally in Stockholm the Dean Gallon Games. You know, when you get 20, 30, 40,000 people in a stadium, it's wonderful to feel like you're in a sport that's popular the way that football, basketball, and baseball is back here in America. Right, right.
So many achievements and accomplishments. Obviously, breaking Steve Prefontaine's high school record, the 2-mile.
I chased that record all year.
Did you?
I was chasing the ghost of Steve Prefontaine.
Yeah.
From real beginning from August of my senior year. I knew what I had to do, and it was up. I put the goals for the year on a piece of cardboard up on my bedroom wall, so that when the alarm went off at 6:15 every morning, for me to go out for that 3-mile run, when it was gray and cold and windy and nasty, and I said, oh, I think I'd like to stay in bed, and I'd look up there and I saw my goals, including Prefontaine's, record. I had 8:40. 8:40 was what I had to do.
There's the motivation, right?
That was my motivation, and then to chase that all year and literally get it in my, right at the end of the season was a great thrill, because I admired him from the standpoint of how he ran and how he competed. I didn't want to emulate his off-the-track behavior, but we both competed similarly in that we were front runners. Yeah. We basically went out after a couple laps and set a pace and dared people to come after us. If you want to race, then let's race. Right. And I felt like he did. If you want to race me and you're going to beat me, then you're going to pay a price and you're going to hurt. Right. So how much are you willing to hurt today? Right. And that's the attitude that he had, and I emulated that, because that was the kind of racing that I admired the most. That was my style. Yeah. And that's why I called my company Front Runner, because that was what's it called?
Symbolic.
Symbolic. Thank you. Symbolic of how I wanted to compete on the field and in cross country, on the track, but also in business. Right. So you've got that. Obviously, the 3 Olympic teams, the world champion cross country. What stands out as the biggest highlight as you look back over a long, successful career? I ran when there was only 1 class in high school, so 5 state championships in Illinois, which is an excellent state for middle distance. Oh, absolutely. Running. And then a 9-time Big Ten champion. If you look at the who's who of who was in the Big Ten conference with me, Greg Myers, Herb Lindsey, Steve Placentia. These are guys that are, from the top 10 list for America for 8 to 10 years after we graduated. Right. And to beat those guys and win that many Big Ten titles. And I only won 1 NCAA championship, but I was the top American in 8 races. Yeah. And Prefontaine never had to battle that many foreign athletes, and he didn't have to battle the overage foreign athletes. That all happened after he got out of college. Right. And that would have changed the complexion of the way his career. And Jerry Lindgren, the same thing. None of those guys had to compete against a 24-year-old Kenyan as a freshman. Right.